hey, in order to play Arena, you need to get money from the standard ladder. So I wanted a deck that could use a bunch of cheap cards, none of which cost more than 40 dust, to go into the Masters League ladder and win a bunch of games very quickly to get lots of money, so that I could get back into that arena. So I made this deck that centers mostly around 1 and 2 and 3 cost creatures, and I went 14 wins and 4 losses, and more importantly, each of the games was very quick. And I wanted to show it to you guys. So I call it the Mono Wyrm deck because so often you can play that Mono Wyrm on turn 1 and then play a coin Shattered Sun Cleric on turn 2 in order to have a crazy BV start. So you just saw me beat a Warlock Murloc deck. Murloc decks are so expensive and this deck is so cheap. So and also once you invest money into a Murloc deck, that money, or dust or whatever cards, it's gone forever because you're either going to play Murlocs in your Murloc deck or you're not going to play them. So I like the idea of buying things like the Raging Worgen and the Amani Berserker and the Knife Juggler that are good in most decks, as well as being good in this specific deck. Some of the risks of the deck, by centering around cheaper creatures, you're often going to run out of cards after round 8 or so. You're going to see in this game a warrior who stalls, as warriors should with their cute little armor ability, until I'm basically out of cards, and at this point there's just no winning for me. So this is one of my very few losses. Like I said, there were only 4, and this is how most of them looked, right? I get them really low, but I can't quite finish them off, and then I'm drawing a card and having to play it, and all the cards I draw are worth 1 or whatever, so no winning from there. So that's how you're going to lose, but you're not going to lose often, so it's okay. And here you see the huge damage potential of Knife Juggler into Mirror Image opening, man. Mono Wyrm Knife Juggler Mirror Image is such a great start, because the Mirror Image shoots the knife twice, as well as giving the Mono Wyrm additional damage and protecting the Mono Wyrm and the Knife Juggler while they whack people in the face. It's a great combo. And you can see in this game, with 2 fireballs and the make your spells cost slightly less, and the Mono Wyrm who gains damage every time you cast a spell, like the game is over on round 5. It's crazy. A lot of these games play really quickly, and a lot of opponents that have a more taunt centric, or like give up the early game and then play a Ventrico centric, or give up the early game and play a Mountain Giant. You can see that in this game there's a Mountain Giant play on turn 5. That's just not scary at all, because if you're not trying to control the board, a Mountain Giant isn't something you're trying to kill. You just go past him and hit the hero behind it, and now he's going to choose whether he tries to reduce your damage a tiny bit by killing one of your tiny minions with his Mountain Giant, or whether he tries to race you down, in which case you're doing more damage than he is. And so a lot of these like established control later sorts of decks will just immediately die to this sort of sprinting thing. There were several quick or early in round wins in a row here. A lot of them centering around the Mono Wyrm into some cheap spell, either Arcane Missiles or Mirror Image, early start things that really make for lots of money per hour. Anyway, the cards that make up the deck and why they're important, man. We got ourselves a Spellbreaker and 2 Polymorphs to deal with taunting creatures, right? Because if you don't have anything to deal with taunt, you're just going to get taunted to death, especially by priests. We got Cone of Cold to buy us time to keep our creatures out and attacking 1 extra round. Often all you got to do is get someone down to 15 health, and that means just doing 15 damage to your opponent. And that means keeping, each of maybe 5 really cheap low damage creatures alive for 2 or 3 rounds each. And all of a sudden your opponent is dead in the face. Mirror Image combos really well with the Knife Juggler and the Mono Wyrm. Leper Gnome is just an all-around awesome card, as well as focusing entirely on doing damage directly to the hero, which is what we're all about. The fireballs are you can use them for removal if you're being outraced by your opponent. Like, right, say a lot of times what I do is I count up the amount of damage I have on the field versus the amount of damage he has on the field, and if his damage is higher, now I have to worry about removing his creatures, because if we both race, he's going to win. If the amount of damage I have is higher than the amount of damage he has, I don't attack his creatures at all. I just go straight into attacking his face, right? And let him spend his attacks hitting my creatures while I spend my attacks hitting his face. That's like the definition of rushing. Silverhand Knight and Dark Iron Dwarf and Raging Worgen, Mad Bomber, Arathi Berserker, those are all kind of creatures that are centered around damage rather than tanking or board control so much. As far as mulliganing goes, Your goal is to get everything costing less than 3 in the early game. I know it's really tempting usually if you draw a Shattered Sun Cleric to keep him because he costs 3, and that's a pretty early game play. But opening the game with 2 mono worms and a spell like I did here is just so crucial, man. If you can get that mono worm, all is well. And leper gnomes are also a good 1-cost play. Getting a play out on turn 1 is pretty important. So you can see right there, I kept the Shattered Sun Cleric because I have a 1, 2, and a 3. That's one of the only times I'm going to keep him. But if you drew like a 1 and 3 and then like a 6, mulliganing just the 6 and keeping the 1 and 3, your 1 is probably going to be dead before your Shattered Sun Cleric comes out. So often I'll mulligan any 3s that I get just in hopes of getting more 1s and 2s. A 2-2-2 start would be perfect. You know, like as many 1s and 2s as you can get is best. And if you ever draw no 1s and 2s and then mulligan the entire hand and again draw no 1s and 2s, you're just going to lose. So be careful about that, man. That Argent Crusader is similar to the Fireball. I tend to just save him for the final play to do that last 4 damage to my opponent's face. I don't tend to use him to kill 2 minions the way that he's meant to be used. He's just, you know, he costs 6. He does 4 damage straight to the creature on a single round, or straight to your opponent on a single round, and then he has Divine Shield, so we can probably do 4 more damage, or at least soak up 2 minions dying the next round. So that's how he gets used, man. So this is another one of the very rare losses that came through. You can see I'm way ahead on early damage, but as soon as he plays that the board wipe, the 2 damage to all minions thing, I never really kind of recover from that. I don't know. I mean, you just can't play around that with this deck. You need to have more 4 and 5 cost creatures, which would make you not rushing and, you know, either win before turn 5 or face the facts that sometimes he's going to get a Holy Nova. Then this Warlock was a pain in the butt, right? Because he has those 2 imps out, which means all of his minions have infinity health. But it didn't matter because, again, I'm ignoring his minions and just straight up attacking his face, and eventually he gets cremated.